This is going to be a mid-season assessment for wide receivers, our top 10 list. And we can start off with honorable mentions. These are people who did not make the list, whether it was due to injury or actually, you know what? Looking at the
Not too
list,
many injuries on this list.
there are no injuries in our honorable mention.
No,
Well, these are people who barely
Wait,
made it.
right.
Who
Barely
not the
missed
top.
it.
Yeah, that's what I meant. No, they barely made it.
Right, right.
When we have Jarvis Landry having a pretty good season, you know. Allen
Yeah.
Robinson, he's having a good season. He's kind of low in a few stats though. James Jones, maybe not getting the best yardage, but he has 6 touchdowns, and that's definitely
And
helped.
just the unexpectedness of it too.
Yeah, I that's well, you know what? James Jones did it because he was an unexpected player that to come in, and the other one, Willie Snead, was unexpected to come out.
He was on the practice squad. I remember actually watching the Saints preseason game when he kind of emerged as the dominant receiver. I think it was game 3 maybe,
Mm.
and I was like, wow. If there was one thing to take away, I think I might have I texted you this when it happened. I'm like, if there was one thing to take away from this preseason game, it's this Willie Snead kid. He better make the team,
Mm-hmm.
and he did. And obviously, he's turned out to be. Uh, Him and Brandon Cooks have almost the same stats.
Yeah, yeah,
So Brandon Cooks was slightly disappointing, which is kind of one reason we didn't put him on here. But Sneeds was a complete surprise. So they've kind of almost been equal at 1 and 2 for the Saints, and it's been really impressive. You mentioned Landry and Allen Robinson. I think they've mostly been held back by just their team has just not
yeah,
performed quite that well. Um, Blake Bortles has been fairly inconsistent. Landry's biggest problem, I think, was just Tannehill was not playing good
yeah.
at the beginning of the year. He just really wasn't. He's a guy that potentially, both of these guys. I mean, all those guys that we mentioned, but especially Landry and Robinson, I think have potential to cut into this top 10 as it goes.
They could maybe, but there's also really big names in here, and
Right.
it, I think that's the only reason why Landry and Robinson didn't make it is because they're playing really good football, just not as good as these other guys coming in, and this is just kind of unfortunate. So they're
This was a really tough list to
this
make.
was this is very tough. We kind of switched around a lot of stuff discussing it, and
Right.
we're gonna start off number 10 with Amari Cooper, which might be kind of surprising. You know, he's our only rookie, that's in the list, which, but by far the best rookie in here. It's almost
That's
unfortunate.
kind of part of the reason that I felt almost obligated to include him because he's the best rookie. And it's not like he's the best rookie and having an okay season. He's the best rookie and he's having a great season.
He's
And I feel like he deserves this nod,
he
personally.
also is leading the NFL with yards after reception
Right. Right.
out of anybody else. So that's pretty damn impressive coming from this rookie.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Totally.
what do we have at number 9?
Almost one on name brand recognition, Calvin Johnson. But no, he's really having a not as monster of a season. Obviously, if he's down at 9, is you're used to seeing him at number 1 every single year.
Yeah.
But the fact he's even in the top 10 in the lines, more or less, are garbage. is he's the one shining turd in the pile of crap that is the lines.
One weird thing about
You like
Calvin
that middle?
Johnson, I
That
did,
middle?
I did, I did like that. I almost skimmed right past it, or I should say skidded.
Uh,
But God, yeah.
okay, no,
we
keep
can't do
going.
this
I
again. We
can't have a
can't do it
repeat.
again. We can't do it again. The thing about Calvin Johnson, what's interesting is a lot of people are almost saying it's like, oh, was age catching up with them? Well, you know what? There's other receivers where age did not catch up with them. One of them being Steve Smith Sr., which that's the other one that needed an honorable mention. Steve Smith didn't make this list only because he had a season injury or a
And you
season-ending
won't
injury.
and you won't see Keenan Allen on this list for the same reason in the
Yeah,
same game.
yeah,
So
exactly. So that's the only reason why those two are not in here. But you look at Steve Smith, he's older, and he's had a hell of a season, and this is coming
Right.
from Joe Flacco, who's not playing good football this year either. So Calvin, I don't know what it is. It's not like Matthew Stafford isn't throwing it to you. I
He's
mean,
just,
he's got a lot of yards. He definitely does, and I just
it might be an anomaly when you look at this whole. He might go back up next year. You never know.
he
It's
might go
just a
back up this season, realistically.
right, right. That's true. Just a bit of a slump. Not even a bad slump. Just a bit of one
Yeah.
compared to his usual, like I said, monster numbers. He's suffering from like the J.J. Watt effect before J.J. Watt was even a household name. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Next, we have Brandon Marshall at number 8.
right. Who is a large part of the reason his team is even in the conversation.
Yeah, he really is. He's getting a lot of touchdowns. He's getting a lot of yards. I think he's in the top 10 overall for most yards so far this season.
Right. Right.
He's and this almost isn't really much of a surprise for him to be in top 10 because he was this good for the Bears too. This actually might be helping him out that he doesn't have Jay Cutler throwing it to. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing to Brandon Marshall might be one of the best things that happened in Brandon Marshall's career. Really.
Maybe you're being a little bit hard on Cutler,
I think everybody's a little hard on Cutler.
but yeah. Well, Ryan, he actually ended up being a bit of a surprise just how good of a connection they've made. Because I don't think a whole lot of people expected much from the Jets offensively,
Yeah,
and they've been a lot better offensively than I think anyone really foresaw.
yeah,
And it's made up for their defense that everyone expected. The defense has still been good, but I think people expect their defense to be even better.
yeah.
But they've had a little bit worse defense and a little bit better offense. Actually, a lot better offense, I think, than you would
Oh,
expect.
definitely. The
So
fact
and
that
and that
Geno
and
Smith isn't in there just helped their
right
offense tremendously.
and yeah, and Brandon Marshall's the largest reason I think that their offense is pretty decent right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
So
I think Fitzpatrick, he knows how to target Brandon Marshall. He knows how to target Eric Decker, which is something Geno Smith didn't really do either. Man, I'm shitting on Geno and Jay Cutler in the same video.
bravo, bravo.
Bravo. All right, so who's up next?
AJ Green,
Yeah, number
who
7.
if Andy Dalton is the reason the Bengals are winning, then AJ Green is the largest reason that Andy Dalton's winning. Uh, I mean,
Slightly, slightly.
AJ Green's not having quite. This is the most. This is probably the most surprising to me out of the whole anyone on this list. That
mm,
AJ Green is having a bit of a down year compared to what he has done in the past,
yeah,
and he's not the main reason the Bengals are undefeated.
yeah,
Because you would expect him to be putting up just absolutely monster numbers and carrying the team. And he's not holding the team back. He's helping the team for sure, but he's not carrying the team, and they're still undefeated, which is what's really surprising to me.
yeah. I think defenses definitely know how to look out for him, but not
Right.
enough. He's still
Right.
putting up good yards, but
And I
just
think he's
not what
dealt
he
with
used
some
to.
more minor injuries this season. He hadn't missed any game playing time, I don't believe,
Right.
but I think he has been a little bit beat up too. So,
Yeah.
which is pretty usual for him, honestly. So if he can get healthy, completely healthy, stay healthy, he he could potentially move up this, especially with the way the Bengals are playing.
You know, AJ Green and Brandon Marshall kind of had comparable stats. AJ Green
Yeah,
beat out Brandon Marshall because he actually has the longest reception so far, and it must have been a touchdown reception, and it was for 80 yards, and that's leading the league right now at week 8 of the longest reception from a wide receiver. In
he's been a little bit under the radar. I haven't, just like the Bengals as a whole, I haven't really heard anyone talking about AJ Green's season.
yeah,
So
yeah, but he's still good. He's still got number 7 out of it.
right,
One person that was a little bit higher than AJ Green. And looking back at this, between Antonio Brown at number 6, we have AJ Green at number 7, and Brandon Marshall at number 8. These were 3 really hard picks.
right,
They're very close to each other, but Antonio Brown kind of got the upper hand because he has less touchdowns, granted, but he's putting up monster yards, and that was without Ben Roethlisberger.
right. He's doing just as much, if not more, with less.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And Antonio Brown, maybe not like well, clearly not a top five receiver yet, but with Big Ben back in the picture, yeah, I could see him getting back in the top
if any
five
of
this
our
year.
top five guys get bumped out, I would expect it to be because of Antonio Brown.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess you could say that he got slowed down a little. Maybe with the game when they had to have Landry Jones start for them, but that's about it.
Right.
Otherwise, he's on pace with everything that he could be potentially doing, like last year, and it's going to be very interesting how the season unfolds, and how much more he might climb up back to the top.
Number five is probably my favorite Patriot, and I don't like too many of them. Julian Edelman, though, I do like,
Mm-hmm.
and he stayed healthy, and he is between the tandem with him and Gronk. I mean, damn, the Patriots just they have one of the best, receiving cores that they've ever had,
Yeah. Well,
and Julian Edelman is the best
besides
one on it.
maybe besides having Randy Moss on the team.
Right, other than their '07 season, I guess.
Yeah. Uh,
But yeah,
I've heard nothing but specialists say of how Julian Edelman is the best slot receiver in the NFL. And I wanted to argue against that as much as I could, but this year especially, he is the best slot receiver in the NFL.
yeah, and you know what the most impressive thing about all this is?
Hmm.
He's doing this despite the fact that he's got a handicap of being white. I mean, how many top wide receivers are white, right? Not that many.
Why you gotta bring that up, man? You know, you know that fucking hits home to me without Jordy Nelson this season.
I know that's the whole reason I said it. That's the
God.
whole reason I said it. I'm sorry.
I mean, Jordy's not a slot receiver, but man,
Oh man, I had to
I
throw that
thought
in
this was
there.
our week to shit on players. I didn't know you were gonna shit on me too.
Just your feelings, not actually, because you needed it. You totally needed to be shit on after that Sunday night game.
God, yeah, tell me about it.
Odell Beckham Jr., number 4,
Yeah.
my
Uh,
favorite Giant. So
yeah. Well, you should be.
right, LSU boy.
Right. Odell, man, he's having a. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's kind of weird. Of some people are like, oh, well, he's not having the same year that he did last year. Well, he missed practically half the year last year. He hasn't missed,
Right.
anything from this year. He's on pace to do way more, statistically, and he really has. Um, he's gotten the yards. I think he has 7 touchdowns. 3 of them came from just
Right.
last week.
Any stat that he was lacking in was shored up by Sunday.
Right.
So I think a lot of it has to do with perception with him because a lot of people didn't really know anything about Odell Beckham or anything, and he just emerged and started doing all these crazy things. And so because he hasn't made some just spectacular just not talking about him. The Giants aren't doing great, but he's number 4, and I think that he earned it.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Yeah,
definitely earned being number 4. I mean, you gotta be at least happy he's in top 5.
he's been a little inconsistent, but I
Yeah.
mean, come on, man, he's still. I mean, really, he's just now played enough. He just now played a whole year. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just the last couple weeks, or like the last few weeks or so, he finally played a whole year's worth of games. So
Right. Right. The next player that's above Odell Beckham Jr., Larry Fitzgerald, number 3.
complete opposite end of the age spectrum here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Complete opposite story. He was, guy that the Super Bowl all those years ago was '08, I think was that Super Bowl
Hmm.
they went in, and he was the dual cover of Madden with Troy Polamalu after that, and just just taking over the league, blowing it up, and then all of a sudden, just Kurt Warner's gone, and the Cardinals are in a slump, and it's like, is Larry Fitzgerald done? Was
Yeah.
it, is he got too old or what? And it's, he always said that he needed a quarterback, and he got one,
Yeah.
and he's proven that that was the biggest problem. He he finally got someone that he got a little bit of chemistry with, I guess, in the passing game, and here he is at number 3. Maybe the biggest surprise on the whole list.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, not maybe not. I think if Steve Smith wouldn't have torn his Achilles at this
Right.
last season or this last game,
Right.
those two would have been extremely hard to place on this list. It's almost like fortunate for us in a way that Steve Smith did get injured for the rest of the season that we could like make a definite answer like Larry Fitzgerald is definitely top 3. If
Well, it
Steve
definitely
Smith was
got
in,
easier to make a 10-man list once we decided to take injured players off.
yeah,
So yeah, it's still pretty surprising. Like Steve Smith had a pretty good season last year, though. Still, so him maybe playing even better was the surprise. But Larry Fitzgerald just sort of had a career revitalization here.
yeah, he really did.
There's the whole story of the Cardinals right now. They're leading. They're the so-called triplets. All 3 of them, Chris Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Carson Palmer, are all older players that are having a career resurge.
Yeah,
The Cardinals have a history of doing stuff like this, like with Kurt Warner. So it's interesting to, I don't.
I think
Arizona's becoming a bit of a retirement home.
but
It's not even an insult though, because they're doing well.
Yeah, exactly.
Very
But they're
well.
not killing them off. They're like giving them new
Right.
life about it. It's
Right.
interesting with Fitzgerald because before Carson Palmer, I remember so many things going on in ESPN of just people talking like. Everybody kept saying like, "Oh, I have so much respect for Larry Fitzgerald. It's just unfortunate that he's just wasting the rest of his career at this really bad team." Well, it's great that he stuck with it because his career's not wasted by any means. He's had such a great season, and it's really fun to watch him come back from it.
You don't see loyalty in the NFL much anymore.
No,
It's pretty common to kind of be a. I mean, Darrelle Revis is probably the poster boy for being a mercenary, so to speak. Going where the money is, doing battle for where the money's at, and that's become. He's kind of the anti Fitzgerald in that regard, in every way imaginable,
yeah,
position and everything. And it's good to see. Although I think at one point he might have been kind of wanting to get out, and they kind of shut him up by showing that they were making efforts to rebuild.
yeah,
And they've done that, and Arizona is impressive, and Fitzgerald's impressive, and good luck to him.
yeah,
Good luck.
definitely. I don't want to see what happened to Steve Smith happen to Fitzgerald. I don't want to see both of them go out
No.
like that. I mean, I didn't want to see Steve Smith go out, but I don't want to see both of them go out
Right.
like that at this point in the season. And I think we covered a lot about Fitzgerald on this, but let's go to number 2. This might be the one that people don't agree with us on, but number 2 is Julio Jones.
And number 1, we can go ahead and just say it's DeAndre Hopkins.
Right. Those two are
And
so close.
the hair split on this was the turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
That was the real, because we kind of grappled with this one for a while,
We did. You and I didn't agree with it.
right? And we finally kind of, the turnovers is what I was actually going to bat for Julio. Part of that might be because he was carrying my fantasy team, but it would have hurt me a little bit to put a Falcon at number 1. Okay, anyways, so if you can hear what I whispered, I just spoiled another video. So, anyways, that was it. And honestly, DeAndre Hopkins is doing just as much, if not more, with less. Because
That was definitely the deciding factor why we put Hopkins
Right.
at number 1. Julio Jones has a team this year. DeAndre Hopkins has a struggling team, but he's right there with Julio Jones. When it comes to yardage, touchdowns, Julio Jones has 2 fumbles this year. DeAndre Hopkins has none. And
Right.
that was kind of the other thing. But that's pretty damn impressive for this up-and-coming wide receiver to not really have much of a team and still putting up these numbers.
And and going forward, he was actually losing receptions to Arian Foster,
Yeah,
and Foster gone. I think Arian Foster was actually making enough receptions that he was like their number 2 receiver basically.
right.
And his stats, there's no reason to think his stats are coming down as long as Hoyer stays healthy, and the Texans are having to throw the ball to stay in games, which they have to do anyway because they don't have a running game anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I don't see him losing the spot. I'll be a little surprised if he loses the spot. Unless they lose Hoyer, then maybe if they're just not putting out any offense anymore. But yards, touchdowns. I mean, it's because the Texans don't have anyone else to rely on.
No, they don't. And I think
So,
Hoyer is going to rely on him because the longer that Hoyer stays around the team, the more that Hoyer is going to get comfortable being with that team. And if he's getting more comfortable, him and Hopkins are definitely going to get more in sync. And you might actually see Hopkins spike up even more in the
right.
second half of the season than he already has
You
in the
you
first
could
half.
see him get double covered, and you see that with Julio Jones too.
Yeah.
But with the Texans in particular, they're probably going to be playing a lot of garbage time this season.
Yeah.
So he'll have those stats boosted by garbage time, if nothing else.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I feel pretty solid about. We grappled with it at first, but I feel pretty solid about that 1 and 2 right now.
Right.
So there you go.
There you go. So I think overall, if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, please leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the top 10.
If you were offended by my risque joke,
Hopefully not. Hopefully you took it as a joke as much as possible. Oh, whoa.
all right.
But follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Get us out of here.
Let's wrap it up. Let's go like a condom here. To Facebook and Twitter. There's links in the description below. Please leave us a comment and see what you think the top 10, if you agree with us or not. And let's see what the rest of the season has to detail.